What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 158. My name is Victor Vasquez. Appreciate you joining me on this episode and this channel where all we do is talk about new movies that come out in theaters or in streaming. I'll give you my high-level thoughts. We'll dig a little bit deeper in the spoiler section, and then we'll wrap everything up and decide after one viewing, is this movie timeless? Is it something that I would want to own as a Blu-ray in my collection digitally and just want to keep rewatching this in the future? Sometimes you guys will agree with my opinions, sometimes you won't, but let's have a conversation. Let's talk about movies and really just kind of decide, hey, why are some of these movies, some of your favorites, some maybe not my favorites? And let's have a discussion in the comments on YouTube or Spotify. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, send me an email, timelessmoviepod@gmail.com. That is the email that you can use in order to reach out to me and give me your opinions and thoughts about movies that we have watched recently as well. Speaking of movies that we have recently watched, episode 157 of the Timeless Movie Podcast is available on all platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Go check it out. I ended up going solo and talking about the new film from Luca Guadagnino, and it is called After the Hunt. It has some big-time actors like Julia Roberts, Andrew Garfield, Io Debris, and you'll have to kind of really see if you agree or disagree with whether I enjoyed the film of After the Hunt. I had some things I really liked, some things they were okay. But again, listen to that episode. That way you can agree or disagree on whether that film is timeless. All right, let's go ahead now and jump in to this week's movie, in which we are talking about the new film from Netflix. It is directed by Kathryn Bigelow, and it is called A House of Dynamite. Now, I wanted to watch this movie, and this is, again, one of the rare streaming movies. I wanted to actually watch it in theaters, but wasn't able to actually find a showtime near me. So I just waited until it released on October 24th. And in this film, what was really the biggest reason why I wanted to check it out was because of the premise that I had heard. Essentially, in the film A House of Dynamite, there is a nuclear warhead that is heading to the US. It is going to hit one of our American cities. And what is the US government going to do in order to try to prevent it, intercept it, and protect the people of the United States and not start a nuclear war? So that is essentially what the film is about, but I was super intrigued. And then the second reason I wanted to see it, other than the premise, was because of the actors that were coming out in this film. And really, the top name that I was excited for was Rebecca Ferguson. I mean, she has been a beast in all these different types of movies, such as Mission Impossible Fallout, the Dune films, if you guys have seen Silo on Apple TV. So I'm a really big fan of hers, and so she's really highlighted a lot in the trailer, as well as other actors, but I wanted to really check it out for her and see how it was all going to play out in this story. All right, that is all that I wanted to kind of explain in regards to my background thoughts. Let's go in now and dive into the non-spoiler section. That way we can explain a little bit about my experience watching A House of Dynamite. Okay, A House of Dynamite is directed by Kathryn Bigelow. If you don't know, she has made films such as Zero Dark 30, The Hurt Locker, Point Break, and many other films as well. She has a really great ability to kind of build out these stories and these worlds and add this element of thrill to what is going on. And so this film is no different. And in A House of Dynamite, we have a lot of different actors that have to play their part in order to add the emotion and the thrill to this, again, premise of a nuclear warhead coming to the US. Who are those actors? Well, I mentioned one of them before, but you have Rebecca Ferguson, Idris Elba, Anthony Ramos, Greta Lee, Gabriel Basso, and many other actors that play a, small little part, but add a little bit more to the narrative. So I'm probably going to repeat myself, but just to explain it one more time, what is A House of Dynamite about? It essentially is showing what would the US government do if a nuclear warhead came our way? How are we going to try to intercept it? Who are the government parties and the agencies that would get involved? How do we collaborate in order to, once again, try to understand who is the adversary that sent it? How can we destroy it? And if we can't destroy it, are we going to retaliate? That is essentially what this film is trying to highlight. Now that I get to check it out on Netflix, My overall thoughts are I thought this movie was good. There was some great pieces that I really enjoyed. Some of the performances really added to the emotion, but it's not a great movie. And I'll explain a little bit later why. I do want to highlight some of the good things that I really enjoyed about it, which is I think this film does a really great job with giving that feeling to the audience of, the pressure, the anxiety of what some of these government officials are going through. If this was a real situation, how do we keep our cool and not lose our focus in regards to what we have to decide, especially when you're starting to see, okay, if you're a part of this specific situation room, how are we going to decide who to retaliate? What if we don't know who the adversary is? They throw out a couple of other countries like Russia or North Korea, and it's never very clear on, okay, if we don't know, should we still retaliate? Should we trust these other countries that have other nuclear warheads that they won't send even more? So there's a lot of different things, and that anxiety and that tension that they're able to build is just so well done. Once again, there's a couple of elements that I didn't really like. And so let's go ahead now and move over to our pros and cons. That way I can kind of shed more light in regards to A House of Dynamite. Okay, first pro that I really want to give for A House of Dynamite on and what I enjoyed was the pacing. The way that they edited this film and just the frantic speed that it goes at, for me, I loved it. I like when films are quick, but it keeps you on your toes on in regards to, well, what the hell's going to happen next? How are these people really going to get out of the situation of a nuclear warhead coming for a city in the United States? And so the way that they just edited the film, scene after scene, and it is broken up into different pieces, it really worked for me. Now, for some folks, you might not appreciate it because again, maybe you don't want that kind of a speed in regards to a movie or narrative, and it does make it really hard to keep up. You have to pay attention to a lot of the conversations, a lot of the dialogue, where these different government agencies are located, how they're all trying to communicate and give each other the most up-to-date information. That way we can really try to resolve this as quick as possible. Throughout the movie, you're only dealing with, I think, the situation of a nuclear warhead coming to the US. I think its total impact or time of impact would be 19 minutes. And so everything is just at such a fast pace. And again, some people will enjoy that. For me, I really dug it. And that's what really made this feel even scarier, more tension. And so that kind of editing just was something that I really appreciated. And really, what you're seeing going on from different government agencies and characters, you're seeing them in real time. Like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Some give up hope. Some still feel like, okay, we might have a chance. But I don't know. The editing of everything that was done, scene after scene, there was never a time where it just let up. It was just a continuous thrill ride all the way through. Okay, second pro that I really want to call out for A House of Dynamite that I enjoyed was the breakout of the film. So this film is broken out into three different sections. So it's kind of like in a non-linear type of a format, but it just rewinds back to when a government agency finds out that a nuclear warhead is coming their way. And why I like the breakout is because of the fact that you get to see different groups of individuals deal with this situation. There was a lot of abbreviated and abbreviations of agencies, so I'm not going to name all of them here, but in the first part, you kind of get to be with the group of White House Situation Room individuals. This includes the character of Olivia Walker, who is played by Rebecca Ferguson. And then eventually, in the second part of the film, you follow other folks from the Fort Greely site in Alaska. You get to see the Deputy National Security Advisor. And so you're just seeing different groups and how they're trying to manage this stressful situation. How are we going to handle this? And you're seeing it from different perspectives. You have individuals from, the actual Secretary of Defense who immediately wants to retaliate. He wants to, hey, I feel like it could be Russia. It could be North Korea. Let's send it all out and make sure to, hey, we're not going to be surrendering. Then you have folks that are more of like the Deputy National Security Advisor, Jake, who is played by Gabriel Basso. He's trying to kind of calm the situation down and say, hey, let's not retaliate. Let's not send that message. We really need to first figure out in the 19 minutes that we have who is the culprit? Was it a mistake? Was it a testing of a missile or a warhead that just went wrong? And so you have all these different perspectives. And then eventually you get to the third part, which is the president of the United States having to kind of really decide who is going to get retaliated and what that impact is going to look like. So, again, the breakout of it was really well done in order to highlight how different groups within the United States government are trying to understand and resolve the situation, how some of them keep their cool and how some don't, and really have to face the consequences of really a city going to get incinerated and then eventually leading into a nuclear war. But just I enjoyed those kind of aspects, and I am a sucker for stories not being told in order. So I really appreciated that things would get rewinded and taken back. That way you can kind of see again from a different perspective how different folks would want to handle this kind of a situation of a nuclear warhead. Okay, and then the last but not least, the final pro that I have for A House of Dynamite is some of the emotional beats and the emotional scenes within this movie, especially because of the fact that you're dealing with such a serious matter of a potential nuclear war starting. And you have these characters that, in their kind of final moments, you see how some like kind of deal with this kind of pressure and the stress. Some folks talk to their moms, some people call of their wives, some folks try to call their daughters. And it's very sad. And it almost feels hopeless in a way where you notice that what if we can't do anything? What if we don't have a way to really intercept these types of nuclear warheads and it ends up leading to a nuclear war and all out annihilation of the planet? What would you do? And in some cases, some people in their final moments are going to try to call their loved ones. And so again, it felt very hopeless at times, especially with what was going down in this movie and how they were trying to stop this nuclear warhead from coming. But again, that emotional piece really added to my enjoyment of the movie because, again, it made it feel like it had stakes. Okay, let's go ahead now and move into our cons for A House of Dynamite. I only have one, but this is really a big one. And this is the element that just didn't really work for me. And that's the ending. And I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot on a lot of these podcasts because, especially in 2025, I felt like there have been various different endings within movies that have just not landed for me. Now, that's a personal thing, right? Because an ending that doesn't work for me could work for you. But in A House of Dynamite, I just didn't really like how everything wrapped up. It felt like it left me hanging with just too many things to think about. And I wish it could have advanced the story a little bit more, maybe gotten some type of an epilogue as to what could have happened or I guess what resulted because of a decision that was made. Instead, it kind of just leaves it up to your interpretation, the audience. Now, I like when movies leave you to really decide what is the ending? What do you think it is? However, I feel like in the House of Dynamite, we needed a lot more in regards to the entire narrative of this story. Like we needed more details and context in order to really have a type of open interpretation that would have felt satisfying. Instead, I was left with like, oh no, like I mean this ending doesn't feel like it's ready for me to decide. I feel like I need a little bit more in regards to what this character was going to decide or who was the adversary or anything like that. Instead, it kind of just ends very abruptly. And so that just didn't really work for me. But like I always say, that's just a personal nitpick. I want to hear from all of you. If you've seen it on Netflix, A House of Dynamite, let me know what you thought. Do you agree with that con of the ending just not really working? Would really love to know your thoughts in regards to just understanding, hey, like, no, this actually really leaves it in a good spot because I want to actually really decide as an audience member, yes, this is how I think this movie ends. All right, everybody. Now I will ask the question of, is this a movie that you should check out on Netflix rather than in theaters? Again, if you do have a Netflix account, this movie is already available for you guys to watch. In my opinion, even though that one nitpick of the ending just didn't really work for me, I would actually still recommend this movie. It's not something that like, yeah, watch it this weekend. But if you're in the mood of watching some type of a thriller in regards to a stressful situation and you want to feel that anxiety, then I would actually recommend it. Just be very careful in regards to setting your expectations up because again, for me, the ending just didn't work. So just be ready for that. But and especially if you really enjoy movies that have these open-ended endings where you have to really decide on your own, like here's the situation, how is it going to end? And if you're really into those types of movies and endings, then this might be the movie for you. But that'll be my recommendation. Feel free to check this one out. I think it's thrilling enough to keep your attention all the way through. All right, that is all of the non-spoiler thoughts that I want to talk about in regards to A House of Dynamite. Let's move over into the spoiler section of this podcast. But before we do, if you don't want to be spoiled, please jump out of the video now, go to Netflix, watch A House of Dynamite. That way we can have a really cool discussion in the comments or by sending us an email at timelessmoviepod@gmail.com. Again, would love to hear your guys' personal thoughts and whether you enjoyed or didn't enjoy this movie. All right, now let's go ahead and dive into the spoiler section by asking the first question and answering it, which is essentially, is A House of Dynamite timeless? Is it a movie that I can see myself rewatching in the future? For me, in my personal opinion, and how I think about timeless, is this a movie that I would want to own? Is this something that I would pay my own money from my own pocket in order to own this as a Blu-ray or just own it in some capacity? I know this makes it a little bit difficult because it is on Netflix, but in my personal opinion, this film is not timeless. And it really just deals with the same kind of con that I brought up a little bit earlier, which is the way that this film wraps up. So now that we're in spoiler section, let me break out why that ending didn't work for me. What ends up happening is the end of the movie deals with the president of the United States. In this film, the president is played by Idris Elba. He must now make a decision in regards to which country and which site is going to get retaliated in order to show and send a message to the rest of the world that the US is not going to surrender. And the film basically ends with just the camera looking at Idris Elba, and it just goes to black. And you have, a bunch of people that were evacuating the city of Chicago and evacuating in different types of cities as well. And then you see a bunker in Pennsylvania that a lot of people are running into. And that's essentially how it ends. That to me was just, it did not work. Like you didn't see who was the site or the country that was going to get retaliated against. You didn't see if the actual nuclear warhead that was coming towards the US, you didn't know if it was actually going to go off because they kept mentioning a couple of times that the missile could be, faulty. It might not go off. And so they didn't show any of that. And it again just leaves it up to you. Does the president decide to retaliate at one of these countries? Or does he decide to just let the city get bombed? And the city in this film that was going to get bombed is Chicago. So that whole ending and really leaving it up to me to decide, I didn't like it. I needed more. And that's kind of why I mentioned it in my con a little bit before is I need more of the context. I need more of the details in regards to, well, who was the adversary that they think it is? We didn't get any of that context. And so, I don't know, to me, I feel like I needed a lot more for the story to play out in order for me to really have that open-ended ending to feel satisfying. And so I actually would have liked if in the story itself, if they would have shown like maybe there was a situation where the nuclear warhead that was coming towards Chicago, maybe it was faulty and maybe it doesn't go off. And then that leads the United States to still retaliate against the rest of the world. And it was because us as the United States not trusting other countries, we are the ones that really lead into this nuclear war. That would have been something very it's just outstanding to leave it on in regards to, well, we only have ourselves to blame and, just things like that. Like I would have really liked just a little bit more, a couple more minutes to explain some of these kind of decisions and not just leave it up to the audience. And so I don't know. I'm not sure if that really makes any sense. I know I'm just asking for an entirely different ending to the movie, but yeah, it just did not work for me. Another thing that I would have really appreciated if they are going to leave it on that ending of the president, not deciding and it just fades to black. I actually would have liked if after they broke out the different sections of the movie, if they would have just given a little bit more detail. For example, in the first section of the film, you have the White House Situation Room with Olivia, played by Rebecca Ferguson, they basically end up realizing that, hey, this bomb is going to hit Chicago. Over 10 million people are going to die. And they are in the White House Situation Room just waiting for that impact. And they almost have no hope. They just don't know what's going to happen. They're not the ones responsible for deciding whether there's going to be some type of retaliation. And I actually would have liked if maybe that first section would have been a little bit shorter. And instead of showing the bomb about to hit the city of Chicago, instead, maybe cut it a little bit earlier. Cut it when there's some interceptors that are going to go up to try to stop that nuclear warhead from coming. And then maybe in section 2, they could have then advanced that story a little bit more. Oh, remember those interceptors that we showed a little bit earlier? Well, they failed. And then finally in section 3, then we get to see the actual, I guess the decision, or the tough choice that the president has to make, which is which country is he going to retaliate against? Is it all of them? Is it one of them? That I think would have made a lot more sense. Rather, what ends up happening in this film is that every section ends in the exact same place. The first section ends with the bomb going right over Chicago, and you don't see the bomb, but you just see it on like one of the specific screens in the White House Situation Room. The second section ends the exact same way, where you have folks that are part of the security of defense, and they're all just waiting for the bomb to hit Chicago. And then finally at the end, the president is on his plane looking at the different documents of who he's going to retaliate against. And the same thing happens. That you get right to the moment when the bomb is about to hit the city of Chicago. There's no advancement in those stories. Everything ends at the exact same place. The only difference is we're seeing different perspectives, but they all lead to the same key point of the movie, but it never advances further. And that's, I think, maybe my biggest issue, is that there wasn't any advancements. All of the storylines led to the same place, and they all ended at the same place. So that wasn't effective for me. But once again, that could just be something that's a personal side on my end. But you guys let me know. I feel like I might be in the minority. Maybe folks find that those 3 storylines leading to the same place was super effective. So definitely let me know in the comments or by sending me an email as well. Now, don't want to end off on a negative note, so have a couple of awards that I like to give out to some of these movies to still show my appreciation about how much I still enjoyed watching it. So I do want to give off an MVP for The House of Dynamite. Who is the MVP that brought the biggest value for this movie? To me, I got to give props to the editing team. So Kirk Baxter, who edited this movie, and also Kathryn Bigelow, who obviously had a big part in regards to how this movie was going to be cut. I got to give props to both of them because, once again, the pace of this movie is so quick, but it is so effective for me. It has such a just high intensity that you're on the edge of your seat just watching and waiting for, okay, is the bomb actually going to hit Chicago? What are we going to do? Is there a way to intercept it? Is there any way that we can get in front of this before it actually starts hurting millions of people? So got to give a props to them, Kirk Baxter and Kathryn Bigelow, as the MVPs of A House of Dynamite. And then my favorite scene is actually going to be an emotional one. You have the Deputy National Security Advisor, Jake Barrington, and he's at one moment talking to some of the counterparts in Russia. He's having a conversation over the phone, and he's trying to understand, did Russia send over that nuclear warhead? And as he goes through that discussion, he ends up choking up because he's almost wants to tell the Russian individuals that, he has a baby on the way. His wife is pregnant, and he's about to say it, and he kind of chokes up, and he has to kind of like compose himself and then kind of get back into that serious mode and understand, can we trust Russia? Can we trust you in order to not retaliate? And so that scene, again, very emotional, but it shows just how tough this will be. Can you trust another country that has various different nuclear warheads? And can you trust that they won't send more in order to start a nuclear war? So that was some of the best emotional moments, and that was just one of the many that came out in this film. All right, everybody, I have rambled long enough in regards to A House of Dynamite. Again, I thought it was a good movie, not great, but I want to hear from all of you. What is your opinion on A House of Dynamite? Is this one of your favorite movies of 2025? Is this the most thrilling? Or maybe you didn't enjoy it. Let me know down below in the comments on YouTube and Spotify. That way we can have a great conversation. And anybody listening on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else, feel free to send an email to the timelessmoviepod@gmail.com. And I would be happy to read your guys' thoughts and also reply back to see if I agree or disagree with what you have to say in regards to this movie. All right, everybody. Appreciate all of you listening to my full thoughts of A House of Dynamite. My name is Victor Vasquez. This has been episode number 158 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Make sure to check out next week's episode as we cover a new movie that comes out in theaters or streaming, and we decide if it is timeless. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you guys later.